Wow. Magna cum laude. That's great.
Thank you.
Congrats on your degree.
Well done. Congratulations on the college degree.
Thanks. I'm sorry.
It's a no.
You just don't have the skills we're looking for. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
You need more skills.
We can give you a position in the mailroom.
You have a bright future ahead.
Best of luck to you.
Best of luck to you.
Pull.
This is Chloe. Hold on. This isn't the real Chloe, and none of this really happened. I mean, this would have been Chloe if she listened to the usual advice, but the real Chloe chose a different path. This is her story.
My name is Chloe Hudson, and I'm a welder. I work for Joe Gibbs Racing. I work for Joe Gibbs Aerospace. I build aircraft parts for experimental aircraft, and I also build race car parts for the NASCAR race cars. I get to do my dream job every single day. I get to end my day fulfilled. I get to build these awesome parts and change history, be a part of changing history, be a part of changing race history as they progress with cars, being a part of experimental aircraft and how it changes history. My journey didn't start off as me always wanting to be a welder. My freshman year of high school, even before then, I just knew I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a surgeon, whether a general surgeon. Later in life, I kind of wanted to be a plastic surgeon. Got into a four-year university day after I graduated high school, started that program and hated it and realized this was not going to be for me. I couldn't do 4, 6, 10 years of this. So I hit the road and really learned a lot about a bunch of different skilled trades. And I went and interviewed for an aviation job. I wanted to build aircraft parts, and I went into this interview, and I will never forget the day this interview sat me down. And he had my resume, and I had all these different trades that I kind of got to dip a toe in. And he was like, well, you're a jack of all trades and you're a master of none, and I really can't do anything with you. And you want to talk about reality smacking you right in the face, It's like, well, there's the fire that I needed, because I'm about to be a master of one. Trade school's not cheap, and in the process of trying to find scholarships, I found MicroWorks Foundation.
Be still, my beating heart. The one and only.
The one and only.
Chloe Hudson, how are you?
Wonderful, how are you?
I'm great. Where's your welding torch?
I left it at home.
Good grief, you're all made up and you look so ready to interview a B-list celebrity. Are you excited?
I'm excited. I'm excited to flip the script today and, get to interview you for once.
You're not going to ask me any difficult, probing questions, are you?
Nothing you can't handle.
It ain't 60 minutes.
No.
You realize there's no teleprompters in this situation.
You're right.
And there's no second takes.
There's no second takes.
No.
We might be in trouble. This is just a question I've always wondered. Why trades? Why dirty jobs to begin with? And even going from dirty jobs to having such a laser focus on trades in general.
I grew up in Baltimore on a little farm in the county next to a guy named Carl Noble, who happened to be my grandfather. And he was a guy who could fix anything, repair anything. He only went to the 7th grade, but he was an electrician by trade, but he could also do anything, any kind of plumbing work, any kind of welding, any kind of architecture. And so I wanted to follow in his footsteps. The handy gene, tragically, is somewhat recessive. So I didn't get that natural talent. So anyway, I wound up getting in entertainment. Dirty Jobs was a tribute to him, ultimately. The true story is my mother called me. I was working for CBS in San Francisco at the time.
Oh, bless your heart.
Yeah, right? And she says, Michael, you know, your grandfather is 91. He's not going to be around forever. Wouldn't it be great if he could turn on the TV before he died and see you doing something that looked like work? So that was my mom. The next day I went into a sewer with a cameraman, profiled a sewer inspector. That became Dirty Jobs. And then years later, Dirty Jobs morphed into MicroWorks.
So how does MicroWorks work?
You're probably too young to remember, but in 2008, headline news everywhere talked about the number of people who were unemployed. But everywhere I went on Dirty Jobs, we saw help wanted signs. And it seemed obvious that there was something else going on in the country. There were millions of opportunities that for whatever reason people weren't pursuing. So MicroWorks started as a PR campaign for millions of good jobs that nobody wanted. And it turned into a trade resource center where fans of Dirty Jobs helped build this destination where people could go to get more information on careers like yours.
Why me? Why did you pick me in my application?
Oh, well, it's your eyelashes.
Oh, yes. Score.
Not true. Honestly, we talk a lot about personal responsibility. We talk obviously about work ethic. We talk about delayed gratification. We talk about a positive attitude. You checked all the boxes. But for me, we try to make an unconventional case for these jobs. And you are an unconventional person in that way. You're not a stereotypical welder. And so, you know, I also loved your story about your initial dream, which was to be a plastic surgeon.
Yes.
Does that recall?
Yes, correct.
So here's a woman who has a dream. It's a very expensive dream. You were looking at what, $300,000-$400,000 in debt?
Yes, correct.
Right. So you're a young woman who has a dream, who decides at the last minute to throw the flag and say, no, I'm not going to borrow that amount of money. So what am I going to do? Well, it seemed to me that you still wanted to be a surgeon. You were just going to use a different tool. And I thought that was badass.
I never want to say that I got into this to be a trailblazer or even to break a mold. I didn't want to change the face of welding. I just wanted to do what I did for a living and do it how I wanted to do it and be who I was and not compromise and not have to change myself or dress down or dress like a guy. I wanted to embrace my femininity and still get the job done. And that's really what it boils down to. Metal doesn't care what you look like. It doesn't care if I put eyelashes on for the day. It doesn't care if I'm a man, a woman, black, white. It doesn't care.
It's the stigmas and the stereotypes and the myths and the misperceptions that keep people like you from pursuing these skills because they grow up watching TV, and if they see a plumber, well, he's got to be a 300-pound dude with a giant butt crack.
Right.
Right? He has to be.
Has to be.
So part of what we try and do, and by the way, if you're a 300-pounder with a giant butt crack, it's okay, right?
Totally okay.
No judgments. But we like to put other examples out there of people who have prospered as a result of learning a skill that's in demand.
People take trades for granted, and it's easy to forget how important and prevalent they are in society. Ask the people of Texas when the ice storm rolled through.
Hundreds of thousands of people in Texas are without power right now.
Power emergency is what it's being called here. Providers now saying it could last for days.
We're running dangerously low on water. So now what we've been doing all day is actually coming outside, getting snow, putting it in our pots, and heating it on our propane grill.
They were begging for plumbers, electricians, HVAC guys. The last time that your lights went out, how often did you look at your watch to see how long it took for your lights to come back on? Well, that's a lineman, that's an electrician. Those are all tradespeople. Trades workers keep the lights on for the rest of us, literally. But there are more job openings in the skilled trades than workers to fill them. Today, there's more than 9 million job openings and only 6 million will get filled. Most of those jobs don't require a college degree. Employers simply can't find the skilled workers to hire. And it's going to get worse. Nearly half of the trades workforce is nearing retirement in the next decade. That's right, half. So, what happens to our way of life when we don't have the skilled people to, fix things?
So what if someone doesn't want a dirty job?
What? Whoa.
A
What do you mean?
dirty job, you know?
Who doesn't want a dirty job?
Right? I mean, is that the kind of person you send to college?
Look, there is no kind of person. There is no dirty job. There is no clean job. There is no good job. There is no bad job. There's work, there's jobs, and there are people. And we're not all the same. And part of the problem today, in my view, is that we talk to everyone as if they're the same person. We dispense this advice like it's one size fits all. And it's not. But I'll tell you what is quantifiable. How much debt do you have?
I have no debt.
Okay. Not everybody can say that. We got $1.7 trillion in student loans on the books right now. Before the pandemic, we had 7.5 million open positions, most of which didn't require a 4-year degree. And yet, what do we tell this generation again and again? If you don't get your 4-year degree, you're screwed. It is a trick and a trap, in my view, to talk very broadly about advice. There might be people watching this right now who should go to a 4-year school.
Right.
I have no doubt. I have a 4-year degree. My liberal arts education served me really, really well. But I'll show you something that exists today that didn't exist when I went to college. And here it is, this thing.
Right.
I have access now with an internet hookup to 99% of all the known information in the world. 2 nights ago, I watched a lecture from MIT. Last week, I watched a lecture from Harvard for free. Anybody, anywhere today has access to all the stuff that I had to pay for in 1984. And it's madness to suggest that the best path for the most people is also the most expensive path.
If something is more expensive, does that make it better? Colleges and universities are hoping you think so. Sitting on billions of dollars in endowments, they can't resist hiking tuition every year, taking money from people that can least afford it. So, where does all that money go? The amount of money spent at American colleges on administration is now almost equal to the amount spent on actual instruction. Of course, no one actually knows what a college administrator does, but we do know what they make. 6-figure salaries, lavish benefits, housing, car, and spending allowances, even memberships to private clubs. Ironically, at the same time, most college students are being taught about the evils of capitalism. Here's another way to put it. The President of the United States makes $400,000 a year. Numerous university presidents make more than double that amount.
They're ripping everybody off today. You know, academic system has become a criminal enterprise as far as I'm concerned. Well, the student loan debt is a tragedy. How dare we penalize our young people so early in life? The problem with it, even for the $1.6 trillion in debt, they still learn nothing about money. That's the tragedy. I don't care if you spent $1.6 trillion and people were going to become wealthier, happier, and wiser. But these school systems are ripping kids off.
A dollar that you owe is a dollar that you have to earn. You know, I'm so happy that I don't have a student loan, so I can drive a nice car, and I get to live in my own house, and I don't have to have a roommate, and I get to afford my life luxuries that wouldn't come if I was under a mountain of debt trying to get out of it.
People say to me all the time, how did college get so expensive? And I say, how could it not?
Well, because the government wants to.
Look at you getting all political.
I'm sorry.
Look,
Yeah.
the feds play a role.
Right.
But we just spent 40 years telling 2 generations that they had no hope if they didn't go to school. Then we freed up a bottomless pile of money and encouraged those same people to borrow whatever it takes so they can go get their piece of paper. If you ran a college and you had that kind of inertia behind you, you could charge whatever you wanted. I talk a lot about this, and when I do, I get pushed back a lot by people who say, well, Mike's anti-education, Mike's anti-college. I'm not.
Right.
You are screwed without an education.
Well, you run a scholarship program for an education.
Correct.
So.
But what we try and say is there is know one path that makes the most sense for everyone.
Education is the single most important endeavor. I've never stopped learning. I became very, very picky of who messes with this piece of real estate here, who puts in what into this ear, this real estate here, because that's where you grow out of. So I choose my teachers wisely.
So where do you think the stigma comes from for trades?
Here's what I think happened, in part. I think in the early 70s, college needed better PR. We genuinely needed more people to explore opportunities in higher education. And so college did get a PR campaign, a very effective one. Unfortunately, like always happens with PR, the campaign went too far. They started to say, if you don't go in this direction, you're gonna wind up turning a wrench. And so the whole proposition became a cautionary tale. And we began to promote one form of education at the expense of all the others. And that's when things started to go off the rails. Next thing you know, shop class is vanishing from high schools all over the country. When we took shop class out of high school, we removed the visual proof of hundreds of really important jobs.
We've been brainwashed into thinking that a four-year university is the only pathway to success. And I think now we know that it's just simply not true. My name is Rob Doherty, and I am the founding principal here at Power Technical. We're a trade school with students beginning in 6th grade, learning anything from woodworking, carpentry, construction, metalworking, welding, and machining. It's crazy to think about what a motivated young woman or man can make right now in the skilled trades. I know a young welder who is currently making $200,000 to $300,000 a year.
I'm planning on leaving here with an associate's degree in architecture engineering, and I've already been offered a job at a home building construction company.
When you consider having to spend 4 years in school and have $100,000 worth of debt versus starting right away and having no debt, you're $100,000 ahead before you even talk about the fact that you were making money for those 4 years.
The trades are never going away. You know, we'll always be building something, we'll always be fixing something, we'll always be making something. You know, as a society, that's what we do, is we are always creating.
Joe Biden has a plan to dump trillions of dollars into our economy to rebuild an infrastructure. And my question really is to our leaders, where are you going to find folks to do these jobs? We have to repair this country. And to repair this country, we need to bring the skilled trades back to mainstream. So what we're doing at this one little school in Colorado Springs needs to be something that is replicated and visible in every community across our country.
And so we need tradespeople. The problem is, without financial education, you're still going to be poor no matter how much money you make. You look at the pro football players and pro basketball players, I think 65% are bankrupt 5 years after retirement. And they make millions. I could take a plumber and within 5 years be making more money than any medical doctor with a financial education and still be a plumber. So it's not really what you do for your money, it's what you do with your money.
I mean, what I do is hard work, but it's so worth it. How can you put a price on freedom? How can you put a price on fulfillment? How can you put a price on saying, I love what I do?
Find your calling. That's the most important thing. Now you add financial education to that, you can do your calling and get rich.
So what advice do you have for young people who are starting off on a path and kind of figuring out which way they want to go for their future?
My grandfather, all those years ago, did in fact give me the best advice I ever got. When he saw me failing to follow in his footsteps, he said, Mike, you want to be a tradesman? You can be a tradesman. Just get yourself a different toolbox. And for me, that meant learn how to sing, learn how to write, learn how to act, learn how to impersonate a host, go to a community college, figure out what makes sense to your brain. So I guess maybe that's it. My advice to all you kids is to get the toolbox that makes sense to your brain and then focus on today. Put the tools to use. And don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. I just spent, last week welding a tugboat together down in Mobile, Alabama.
Oh, you should have invited me. I would have come.
You would have loved it. You crawl through these little tiny things, you twist yourself up like a pretzel.
That's my wheelhouse.
All right, well, one of these days, you and me and you, the two of us together, a weld-off.
Let's do it.
Because obviously you're not satisfied taking my job in the whole media thing.
Oh, I'm here for it all.
So you're not going to be happy till you humiliate me, Chloe Hudson. In every way, a man can be humbled.